The trip across the lower Calca Valley went smoothly. Although the valley was actually 900 meters above sea level, most of the tropical rains dumped their moisture on the mountains that Devyn had just traveled over. The vegetation wasn't exactly sparse in the valley, but it wasn't overly dense either. Devyn found a small river to follow for his passage through the rugged region. There was an abundance of food for him to choose from. The first night in the valley, he smoked fish over his fire pit and boiled a few fresh crayfish from the Rio Patia. The following day, he reached the outskirts of the small city of Pasto. The river quickly became surrounded by farms on both sides. The shoreline adjacent to the river was still overgrown with jungle. Even the farmers couldn't control that. Devyn spent a good part of his day making a wide arc around the city. He felt like he hadn't seen a human in weeks, and he watched them with curiosity from his hiding spot. After Devyn had safely circumnavigated Pasto, he reconnected with the river to continue his journey. Farmland stretched for several kilometers on either side. He stuck to the safety of the narrow strip of jungle unless it was completely safe to walk in the fields. He noticed several small boats paddling up and down the river, locals taking their meager trading goods to and from the markets. A few of the upper class had small motors to aid in their journey. The sun was well past its zenith. Devyn wanted to find a secure spot for the night, so he switched his focus to that task. He eventually found a nice thicket near the river with nothing but farmland behind him as far as he could see with his naked eye. He started his routine of making camp. It would be much quicker. He would not be making a fire. Devyn's preparations were disrupted by the sound of a powerful motorboat. It echoed through the valley, so it was difficult to tell how far away it was. Fearing the worst, Devyn packed up his gear and prepared to make himself scarce. His curiosity, however, sent him closer to the river to see what the boat's intentions were. The wait was longer than he'd expected. Although the spot where he was on the river was a long straight stretch, the part of the river where the boat was coming from coiled through the valley. After a few minutes, Devyn heard the sound of weaker motors, and soon saw 3 boats coming in his direction from down the river. Devyn could tell by the whine in their motors that they were going full speed. Each boat had 3 men, armed with rifles. They passed Devyn without so much as a glance in his direction. His tension slightly decreased as they gained more distance from him. But then one of the boats steered next to the shore on the opposite bank from Devyn and dropped off 2 of the men. Devyn watched through his rifle scope as they hid just inside the foliage. Then the boat with the obnoxious motor came around the bend, fast on their sterns. It was a Soccer, a special operations craft, Riverine. The boat was powered by water jet propulsion and designed for shallow water missions. The craft was filled with armed men wearing military-style fatigues and body armor. There were 4 of them, plus the driver. Their rifles were at the ready. Here comes the cavalry, Devyn thought as he remained hidden. But the military unit hadn't made it around the bend in time to see the men get dropped off on shore. This could get interesting. The men in the 3 boats stopped soon after. They were clearly out-horsepowered, and now the men on shore would have a clean shot at the military boat. The men in the small boats raised their weapons over their heads, as if to surrender. The military men had theirs trained on as many of them as they could. One of the military men was manning a mounted, high-powered, fully automatic rifle. The mount had a steel protection plate that swiveled with the gun, offering some protection to the shooter. This man dropped first. Devyn flinched as he heard the first of several shots come from the opposite shore. The automatic fire was hitting the military team from the rear. The man behind the mounted gun dropped immediately as blood spurted from his neck. Another man had his weapon shot from his grasp, and he ducked to retrieve it, and for cover. The men in the small boats used the distraction to open fire with their own rifles. It was chaos for the military team, but the 2 standing men wasted no time returning fire. They were still taking shots from the shore. The driver of the boat fearlessly ducked under the line of fire and went to man the mounted gun. He distinctly heard shots from the opposite shore and ducked. No more fire came from the jungle. In fact, 2 men were collapsing face first into the river. The driver wasted no time getting behind the mounted gun. He fired a burst round into the chest of one of the gunmen in the boats. It sent him flying backwards. Blood splattered his boat and the river. The 2 military experts next to the boat captain had taken out the other 6 men in the boats. At least, that's how it appeared. Devyn watched as the scene unfolded. He knew it was an ambush, but he had mixed feelings on which course of action he should take. If he helped, then he would give up his position, and he had nowhere to run. He could only try to hide, and these men were clearly skilled in the jungle. They would find him easily. Once he saw one of the military team drop, his decision was instantly made for him. He trained his sniper rifle on one of the men on shore. The two men were behind trees and protected from any fire they would take from the soccer, but they were exposed to Devyn. He fired 2 rapid shots, which sent 2 .243 caliber slugs into their skulls. Devyn had switched his sights to the men in the boats even before his targets fell into the water. Half of the men had already fallen. Devyn took one of them out with a shot to the head. One less gun trained on the remaining military unit. Devyn didn't have any more clear shots, and he didn't need them. The unit was well trained. Their soccer was shot to hell, though. It was riddled with bullet holes and slowly taking on water. Devyn didn't have time to ponder it. He threw caution to the wind and left the tangles near the river. He would run through the fields. To hell with whoever saw him. He heard the soccer fire up its engines and turn back in his direction. It slowed when it got near his position. Shit, this is it, Devyn thought, prepared to run as soon as he made it through the jungle. But he suddenly stopped, dead in his tracks. He heard a voice over a bullhorn coming from the military boat.
"Sniper, I don't know who you are, but thank you. You saved some men today. I have 2 wounded, or I would personally come up and shake your hand. I'm a U.S. Navy Special Warfare Combat Crewman. Look me up. I'll buy you a beer sometime."
With that, the boat slowly increased to a comfortable speed and disappeared behind a bend. Devyn's heart was racing. Too close for comfort. What the hell was I thinking, taking those shots? His heart rate decreased at about the same speed as the diminishing sound of the soccer's motor in the distance. One thing he was sure of, he wouldn't be staying here tonight. He crept along the outskirts of the jungle to make better time. When darkness fell, he kept going.